this regular meeting of the Stratford Board of Education to order. Today is Monday, November 27th, 2023. It's 7:14. We're getting started a minute early. My name is Andrea Corcoran, Board Chair. We do have a quorum. I'd like to begin this evening. If you could please join me in observing a moment of silence in remembrance of Loretta Imbro Arcuri, a former Stratford Public School teacher, and Karen Rodia, a former board member. The board extends our deepest condolences to their families. Thank you. Mrs. Wiltsey, will you please lead us in the invocation and pledge?
Yes, would everyone please stand? We beseech you, Almighty God, to bless this meeting of the Board of Education. So guide and rule over our hearts and minds that all our deliberations and decisions may be in accordance with your will and lead to the advancement and welfare of the community of Stratford for whom we serve. Amen. Please turn. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Mrs. Wiltsey. We will begin with our student representatives report, and first up is Vera.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vera Malfoy, and it is my pleasure to be addressing you this evening. I'm very excited to tell you about Bunnell's top highlights for the month of November. Starting off with our school podcast, since I last reported, we've had 4 produced episodes of the Bulldog Underground. We held 2 interviews, one with our very own superintendent, Dr. Sunday, followed by Bunnell High School senior Chris Malin, Dina, who was instrumental in running the 3rd annual showcase of the year. Also, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Koch's Bunnell Bearded Bulldogs, which is a team of 25 teachers and staff who are participating in No Shave November to raise money for cancer research. The team is 68% of the way toward their goal of $5,000, with just 4 days left to donate. So if you Google No Shave November on Google and enter Bunnell Bearded Bulldogs when asked to donate a team, you could donate to them, which will be very much appreciated. So starting off with our departments, first we have the Humanities Department. We're honored to host our 7th annual Veterans Day celebration, which we had a spectacular afternoon honoring over 90 Stratford veterans with a luncheon followed by an inspiring ceremony. Mr. Andy Sarkini spoke to our AP language students and shared his emotional story about growing up during the Holocaust in a ghetto in Budapest, Hungary. Over 20 current and former Bunnell students worked at the polls on election day. Our registrars of voters gave our students the opportunity to participate in the electoral process and learn what it means to participate in civic participation. Moving on to our math department, Bunnell High School students in grade 9 through 12 participated in the American Mathematics Competition, the AMC, last week. Approximately 20 of our students competed in the national competition. Our top students will be recognized when scores are reported. Moving on to our science department, we have our very own Bunnell High School senior, Hezron Maynard, which will be participating in UConn's NRCA, which is the Natural Resources Conservation Academy Ambassadorship Program. The goal of the project is to address local environmental topics that results in a community benefit or overall positive. Hezron's project is to create a greenhouse study room at Bunnell High School, which is a community partner of Hezron's Conservation Ambassador Program. Next we have our band. The Bunnell Stratford District Marching Band was crowned the Connecticut State Championships once again, New Britain, on October 28th. The band also won Best Visual, Best Music, and Best Color Guard. This marks the 4th state title in the last 5 years and the 7th in the last 8 years, which is phenomenal. We have our stage and theater program. Bunnell Stage is proud to present Clues, High School Edition. Performances are December 8th and 9th at 7 p.m. and December 9th and 10th at 2 p.m. Tickets are on sale. Next we have our student government. Bunnell Student Government successfully held the annual homecoming dance at the Trumbull Marriott on Saturday, November 4th. The record-breaking 400+ plus attendees packed the house and the dance floor with a positive and fun event. On Tuesday, November 28th, student government will also host its first blood drive of the school year, working along with the American Red Cross. Moving on to our leadership programs and groups. We have the Inspire Ed, Men of Color, Living in Color, and Soul. The MOC, LNC, and Soul met with the Bunnell High School Culture and Climate Committee on November 14th to brainstorm ways to continue to improve the overall school climate. On November 14th, the LNC hosted ladies from the Baldwin Center who set mock interviews with the LNC and MOC students. The MOC represented our school community very well by holding a game day at the Baldwin Center, which was a great mentoring opportunity for men of color. The MOC members and the elders bonded very well and brought many smiles to the elders' faces. The MOC, LNC, Soul, and Inspire Ed worked very hard to plan and host our third annual culture showcase, which was held in the gym last Wednesday on November 22nd. The showcase brought all students and staff together in unity and showcased the different cultures that we have at Bunnell. Students enjoyed the different acts and performances. The culture showcase was a huge success this year, and hopefully it will be for the following years. We have the Bulldogs in Training, which will be heading to Second Helene and Flood Middle Schools to participate in goal setting and team building activities, along with the Thanksgiving bingo. Moving to our last but not least athletics department. Our athletes of the month are Justina Blamo, girls swimming, and Tommy DeBernardo, football. Football head coach Ty Jenkins was named the Coach of the Week by the New York Giants and will receive a $2,000 grant for the football program at Bunnell. Senior football player David Sanchez is also a finalist for the Heart of a Giant Award by USA Football, which is given to an athlete who inspires on and off the field. Our football team qualified for the CIAC Class MM playoffs and will be traveling up to Windsor High School on Tuesday for our quarterfinal game. Good luck to them. Boys soccer advanced to the quarterfinals of the boys soccer tournament, and in the process, they knocked off the #1 seed, Ledyard, in the state. In conclusion, thank you very much for allowing me to speak in front of you all today and share what's happening at Bunnell. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, sir. And from Stratford High, Daniel.
Good evening. I hope that everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving and you were all able to connect with your family and loved ones. On Monday, November 6th, Miss Kabza and her junior class officers put on a wonderful ring dance for the junior class and their dates. Over 250 students attended, and they had a wonderful time with good food at Vazzi's Four Seasons in Stratford. On Thursday, November 9th, SHS welcomed 14 local veterans and their families to our annual celebration for the military, the Air Force, Army, Navy, and the Marines. They shared accolades about the effort and dedication of students and faculty in honoring them at this event and were blown away by the talent heard in our music and choir performances at both assemblies. The student-led assembly was made even better as our talented students in art, photography, woodworking, video production, Be Kind, and culinary classes all contributed to the success of the event. Students Endinella and myself were the master of ceremonies, and Chef Leon Monsanto students made the food at the luncheon unforgettable. On Monday, November 13th, the annual Stratford vs. Bunnell Powder Puff Flag football game took place at Penders Field. It was a great night for all, and congratulations to the Bulldogs from Bunnell on their 14-12 victory on Stratford. Staying with the flag football theme, the SHS annual Todd Stoltz Memorial Faculty vs. Senior Flag football game was held on November 16th. Congratulations to the faculty on another victory over the seniors. While the victory is important, even more improbable considering the rising age of the faculty, the real meaning of the game is to raise money for this Todd Stoltz Memorial Scholarship. Thank you to Mr. Frazick for all of his hard work in keeping his memory alive at Stratford High School. On November 17th and 18th, the SHS Drama Society continued to wow the community with another wonderful performance. See How They Run. It's a puzzling whodunit that originated in London in the 1950s. Miss Murphy and Mr. Linen did a wonderful job preparing the cast who wowed the audience, sorry about that, with their amazing talents. Congratulations to all. Mr. D'Angelo and Coach Bill ran a wonderful pep rally on Wednesday, November 22nd in preparation for the annual Thanksgiving football game with the Bunnell Bulldogs. Students and faculty were treated to Senior Olympics, a coach's tug of war, and a teacher pie in the face, where Mrs. Dickey, Mr. Velasco, and Mr. Palmucci all received the Cool Whip pie in the face. The school counseling department has continued to work with the seniors on their post-secondary plans. At this time of the year, we have 34% of students who have already applied to college. This number will increase. However, it is important to note that the number of students who have applied already have chosen to apply early decision or action deadlines in order to better improve their chances of acceptance. In our humanities department, teachers continue to engage students in meaningful learning. Robert Kravitz, our economics teacher, designed a task for students to come up with their own formulas on how economists do work. Jessica Teague, our UConn studio and seminar and academic writing teacher, utilized a text rendering experience to engage students in close reading, and Caitlin Rubel, our AP Government and Politics teacher, engaged students in a Federalist debate with the teachers and support staff utilized as judges. Lastly, Michael DeCenzo planned a field trip for our students to attend the West Hartford JCC to attend a film screening on the story of the Holocaust survivor, Eva Lubitsky, which was followed by a student discussion panel with Eva's son, Moses Lubitsky. On December 17th, members of the Quinnipiac Admissions Department came to Stratford High to deliver their first in-person acceptance to one of our incredible students, Michelle Barlow. Michelle applied to Quinnipiac on an early decision applicant and was one of the only 2 students chosen by Quinnipiac to be honored this way. Michelle's parents were invited in to take part of this surprise, which included $133,000 scholarship, her choice of dorms, and season tickets for her and her family for the sports of their choice. Chelsea DeLucia has continued to help support the school counseling department with assisting with college applications, scholarship searches, and FAFSA support. Chelsea comes to Stratford High School bi-weekly to provide this support. We are happy to announce that in advance, seniors have begun working on their Mastery-Based Credit portfolio in order to earn their Mastery-Based Credit linked to the Portrait of a Graduate indicator. The SHS Math Department has been busy learning about thinking classrooms and considering ways to shift instruction to implement some of the practices of thinking classrooms. Teachers created a voluntary book study to discuss the book Building Thinking Classrooms, and teachers have been visiting different high schools to see how they incorporate these strategies within their classrooms. Additionally, the Math Department just recently hosted the American Mathematics Competition at Stratford High, where 113 Stratford High School students participated. Lastly, the Stratford High Math Department inducted its new class of students into our chapter of Mu Alpha Theta, the National Math Honors Society, at 6:00 p.m. tonight. SHS would like to congratulate Avery Foydo, who was named All-State for her effort in the 200 individual medley at the Class M State Championships. In doing so, she also broke the SHS school record. Our boys soccer team won the SWC Boys Soccer Sportsmanship Award, and our girls soccer team had the most wins in school history. Our girls volleyball team went to the semifinals in the SWC Championships and the second round of the state playoffs. We would also like to congratulate the following students: Grace Petrie in all SWC girls soccer, and Estella Feenstra and Malia Servino for all SWC girls volleyball. Congratulations and good luck to the BHS Bulldogs on their Thanksgiving Day victory, and good luck in the football state playoffs tomorrow night versus Wednesday. Lastly but not least, I just wanted to say thank you to the outgoing Board of Education members. It's been a pleasure speaking and meeting with you all for the past 3 months, so thank you, and I hope you all are doing well.
And Baram and Daniel, as an outgoing board member, thank you to you guys for sharing your updates with us every month, and I look forward to following along from the couch going forward, but I will still be listening, so thank you guys for all that you do. We'll turn it over, I believe, to Dr. Sunday for presentations.
Good evening. Good evening. Still got that Thanksgiving hangover, huh? Still tired of that turkey? You know, every 2 years in November, we have these, what I call bittersweet meetings. And it's bittersweet for two reasons. One, we have the opportunity to welcome new members to the Board of Education who come with passion for the work that we're going to do. And on the other end of things, we say goodbye to some amazing individuals who have been doing the work for 4 years. It's my honor and pleasure, and as I introduce these individuals, I'm going to ask them to just pop up and wave. And I would encourage our attendees to give these individuals a warm welcome. But these are individuals who have recently committed the next 4 years of service to Stratford Children. So please put your hands together for this group. Mr. Bill O'Brien. Ms. D'Angela Powers. Mr. Cormier. You are the best of Stratford. You've been elected to this position. We look forward to working with you to advance the interests of Stratford children. Please put your hands together and give this group another warm welcome. And on behalf of Stratford families, our children, our staff, and our Board of Education, welcome to the Stratford Public Schools. Bear with me as I look to express appreciation to a group of my work. I've been around some amazing people who always keep kids at the center of the work. And now it's time to say goodbye to some of those amazing individuals, which is hard in ways that most people may not recognize. I'm going to introduce Ms. Janice Cupie. I'm going to ask you to come down, please. I'm going to read the plaque. It says, for outstanding and dedicated service to the Stratford Board of Education, years served 2019 and 2023. There's a part of me that feels that after more than 1,000 days that you've given to Stratford children, that the only thing we can give to you to say thank you is a plaque. But hopefully you accept this as a demonstration of our appreciation. In my time in the work, I don't know if I've been around too many people with the sophistication and grace that you have behind that bench. The way you advocate for Stratford children, in my opinion, is unmatched. So on behalf of our family, our children, and our staff, I'd like to say thank you for everything you've done for the last 4 years. I would like to call down board member Amy Wiltsey. If there's anybody who has carried the banner for Stratford Public Schools, it's this amazing individual. I've had a chance for the last 2.5 years to watch, and when I think about words that would describe you, is in this complex system that we call Stratford Public Schools, you are one of the people who I know can take complexity and make it extremely granular and practical. And your passion, again, is unmatched. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being an amazing leader. Thank you for caring about 7,314 kids in the same way you care about your 3 kids. On behalf of the Stratford Public Schools, all of our children, our families, our staff, and the Board of Education, I'd like to say thank you for your years of service. And as I present this plaque, I will read it. For outstanding years of dedicated service to the Stratford Board of Education, years served from 2019 to 2023. In the years of 2019 through 2021, Ms. Wiltsey served as the board vice chair, and in the years of 2021 through 2023, served as the board secretary. Again, thank you so much. You can come down. People often tell me I would never want your job. That's what people say to me all the time. And I always kind of raise my eyebrows and I always share that I love my job. If I were to think about somebody's job who I would not want, it's your job. Over the last 2.5 years, I've watched you grow in the role. In informal conversations that I've had with folks, there's consensus that you will be the greatest loss that we've had at the leadership level. You've found a way to galvanize not just these outstanding members who sit behind that bench, but also a community, and galvanizing them in a way that keeps Stratford children at the center. You do it with a level of sophistication, a level of grace, a level of passion, and you do it through consensus building. A few months ago, I stood here and I spoke to our principals and I shared with them a quote that says, "A leader takes people where they want to go." Okay? However, a great leader takes people where they don't necessarily want to go, but ought to be. And that's a quote by Rosalind Carter. And as I stand in front of the three of you, and I think back to our initial meetings, and I think about all the time you've spent committed to the Stratford Public Schools and the sacrifices that you've made. And I will emphasize that word, sacrifices that you've made. I recall our conversations. And as part of those conversations, I asked you what was important to you. Each of you said children. You said things like equity. You said things like transparency. You said things such as academic supports. You said things such as a plan. And we stand here today, and when I actually feel like we're making movement, we unfortunately have to say goodbye. I will encourage the town council to revisit term limits. Outstanding leaders are hard to come by. And whenever we have them, it's important that we keep them in place. What I will say is this. You have brought us, all of you, to where we ought to be. I will read your plaque. Ms. Cochran, if you please step up. For outstanding and dedicated service to the Stratford Board of Education, years served from 2019 through 2023. Serving as the board chair from 2021 through 2023. I'm going to ask you all to get together for a quick photo op. But again, it has been my distinct honor and pleasure to work with each of you. Thank you for your service to Stratford.
But enough about us. All right, let's move on. Next up is public forum. We do have one public speaker today. Let me remind you, when you come up to the podium, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address. And Mr. Green, you're up.
Mr. Rivers is coming to the rescue.
Not quite enough about you. This may be a regular meeting, but this is not a regular board. This is an exceptional board. Christopher Green, 550 Housatonic Avenue. Thank you to all board members for your sacrifices and dedication in running for office and fulfilling the duties of your elected offices. It's largely a thankless position that is absolutely vital to the trajectory of our schools, children, and our town. In particular, I wanted to recognize the 3 exiting members, Janice Cupie, Andrea Corcoran, Amy Weltsey. Thank you. Thank you for being examples of strength, grace, and collaboration. A meaningful public education fulfills the promise of our Declaration of Independence, giving every child the tools they need to pursue their own happiness and the cognizance needed to become informed citizens who uphold a democracy that maintains life and liberty for all. Thank you for ensuring that this board puts our children first. Thank you for fighting, for speaking out, for pushing back, for listening, for working together. Thank you for making difficult decisions thoughtfully, for pushing for transparency, fairness, and equity. Thank you for not being afraid to make good trouble. Thank you for thinking of our future. I'm glad my daughter can grow up in a town with such fabulous examples of strong and principled women. I hope all 3 of you continue to find ways to make your voices heard and push for positive change.
Thank you, Mr. Green. I appreciate your comments. We will move on to our superintendent's executive report. Dr. Sunday, you're up again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's always hard to follow up on student reports because they take about 50% of my report. We have some outstanding young men. Please put your hands together for them again. Just some brief things to report and maybe some introductions as well. I'm happy to share with, unfortunately I missed it, I was under the weather, but Eli Whitney teacher, Mrs. Susan Nita in Stratford Public Schools Teacher of the Year was recognized in representing the Stratford Public Schools on November 15th at the Connecticut State Teacher of the Year event. I see this record over there, and I believe I don't think she's missed one in probably about a decade, but she always shows a little extra love to our crew. So shout out to Ms. Sumeda. I know that Principal Viteri and Assistant Principal DeStefano were there as well as her family. It was a great representation for us. I would like to acknowledge and recognize the Stratford Board of Education. About a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago at the Cape CAPS Convention, this Board of Education was recognized with a Level 2 Cape Board Distinction Award, earned through a demonstration of criteria that indicate effectiveness. So again, please put your hands together for this Board of Education. We're doing some amazing things here in Stratford. I'd like to also recognize the Stratford Public Schools who received honorable mention from CAPE in the Bonnie B. Carney Award of Excellence for Educational Communications. Specifically, we received honorable mention recognition for the district website, as well as the strategic plan, which fell under the newsletter category. So we're doing some transformational things from a marketing and communication standpoint. I want to ask a few individuals who we're going to welcome into our families to just kind of pop up when I say your name. We have some new additions to the Stratford Public Schools, specifically in the administrator professional community. I'm going to ask Ms. Damaris Cruz to please stand up, who is the new supervisor for multilingual languages. Ms. Cruz joins us from Norwalk with more than 25 years of experience, and if you had a chance to scan through this woman's application, the level of qualifications and expertise was very impressive. So welcome to Stratford Public Schools. Next, I would like to introduce Mr. Brian Crooks, who is joining us from Bridgeport. He will oversee our performing arts, our expressive arts, PE, and health. Mr. Crooks is entering the administrative ranks with some outstanding experience in Bridgeport. We are looking forward. I heard this man was super impressive through the first and second round. We're looking forward to him joining the Stratford Public Schools. See Coach Donahue back there. He's been with us for a few months. He's trying to hide. He is the department head for the science department at Stratford High School, and has really knocked it out of the park since he's been here. So, Brian, welcome. Okay, thank you for joining us, and hopefully you're settled in. Sorry, not department head. And the last name I'm going to introduce is a name that's very familiar. He's an alumni of our school system, an outstanding individual, an individual that I met a few years back, and I've really kind of watched him mature professionally. Mr. Brian Kolowski, if you please stand. And you see he has comfortably settled in. This is your first day, man, and you're already settled in with his team at Second Hill Lane. He'll be joining Second Hill Lane as the assistant principal, along with Ms. Pinto. Welcome. I'm going to make a quick plug. I don't think they are here, but I'm going to make a quick plug on behalf of Ms. Temple. We were able to make additions for our school attendance specialists, Mr. Jonathan Barabee and Ms. Adela Torres Santiago, who will be joining us here. They started today, correct? Last weekend, right? So they've started already, and as we all know, chronic absenteeism is a district priority, and these people bring in expertise that we feel will help move the needle for us here in Stratford. A few more things. A big shout out to Bunnell football. Okay, I have to give that up. Similar to Mr. Kolowski, I had a chance over the last couple of years to really kind of watch Mr. Jenkins grow and the transformational impact that he has had on the football program. I don't have the hard number on me right now, but it's been a few years since Bunnell played in the playoffs. And, I don't want to beat this pun into the ground, but brick by brick, he has literally built that football program. But if you follow it, it's become more than a football program. It's become more than a football team. It's a family in ways that develops young men. So tomorrow evening, they venture up north, and they will be competing against my former school system in the Windsor High School football team. I've got great knowledge of how talented they are, but I don't care. This is personal, all right? So I expect my Bulldogs to head up north with one business in mind: play as a team, play fast, and bring home a W to the community of Stratford. All right, so go get it, guys. And that is it for the superintendent's report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Dr. Sunday? We can see each other so clearly. It's wonderful. No questions? Any questions over here? Mr. Henrik, I see you thinking about it. All right. So thank you, Dr. Sunday. We'll move on to Mrs. Mangini and her Chief Operating Officer's report.
Thank you. We are currently in the process of developing the fiscal year 25 budget. I had reported on that last month and indicated that we were sending out the budget guideline handbook, and I shared that with all board members in your packets this month for your information. We've also been supporting the schools and departments as they work through the budget development process, and all requests were due today. So for the rest of the week, I will be looking at all of the requests we received. We'll be finalizing and adjusting numbers, and then we will begin meeting individually with each school and department next week and over the next few weeks as Dr. Osunday and I finalize the superintendent's fiscal year 25 budget proposal, which will take the next 8 to 9 weeks before we actually present it to the board on the scheduled date of February 5th. I think it's important to note that, as always, our financial plan will focus on adhering to the goals of the Board of Education while advocating for the educational needs of our students in the most fiscally responsible way. We have been very consistent in doing that. In addition, I did share with the board some articles that I thought might be of interest. And as we have reported over the past few years, and as I'm sure most of you know, we'll be dealing with the loss of the stimulus funds after this year. They are set to expire on September 30th of 2024, so they really won't assist or impact us for our budget for fiscal year 25. As a result, we did change and revise the annual budget process a bit this year by requiring that all budget requests be submitted at an amount equal to or less than the current fiscal year 24 budget appropriation. So if a program or resource can't be managed through the maximum budget amount, a summary of demonstrated effectiveness must be submitted on a new form that we developed, and the increases need to be fully explained and justified. Of course, Dr. Osunde will carefully review those and make a determination as to whether or not they are something that need to be included in his budget proposal. And once again, school administrators were reminded to carefully review needs, inventory, and ensure that the budget aligns to strategic priorities. So we are asking a lot of our administration and our administrators, but we do realize what a difficult year we have ahead of us. And as I stated in my memo to the board, the loss of funding is a concern for school districts. And the reason I shared the articles is because I felt it was important to have some insight that this isn't just the town of Stratford struggling with this. It is a national issue, and I do think that there was some information in there that supported the issues and concerns that really we have been reporting to the board and the public over the past few years. So I don't know, sometimes it helps to know we're not in this alone. Sadly, nationally, other districts and towns are feeling the pain, but we will do our absolute best to present a budget that meets the needs of our district and keep our fingers crossed that it will be a little less painful in the budget year than we're anticipating. But that's my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Mangini. Any questions? Yeah, Mr. Hendrick.
So I am looking forward to this new process, and unfortunately for you new board members out there, it's kind of like the Thelma and Louise moment. We're going off the financial cliff and we're stuck fixing it. So it's left in our hands. But and I don't know who I would ask, but we had, I think in the last budget, we had talked about a substitute program, Kelly Services, I think. And I looked through your financial report and didn't see it. I noticed we're carrying a pretty big surplus, I think, for superintendents. Just curious how that substitute?
That would make more sense. That would make more sense.
We don't get service for that. So the substitute program, I think Kelly, and I think that's what I've heard we're using. How is that working? Where is it in the budget? And I think right now we have about a pretty hefty substitute substitute line item surplus. How is that all working?
If you want to talk about Kelly first, I can talk about it.
Well, I was going to defer the finance piece to you, and then as far as the operational and the implementation, I was going to invite our colleague, Ms. Brown, to the microphone to speak about that.
Sounds good. I'll start off with saying we have implemented the Kelly service, and the reason you see not a surplus, but a balance currently on that line item appropriation is because we will not be encumbering amount of money. We are billed weekly by Kelly. So that will be ongoing. The amounts of money that we will encumber through that will be for our building subs. I believe we are doing those independently, but I will also add that this is an area of the budget that we will probably have to develop a new line item. Not only because we should separate Kelly services, but also because now it's a contracted service, and it's currently under a salary account. So we are aware of that, but until we get a little bit more of a handle on the dollar amount, we will bring that to the board. And I'll defer to Ms. Brown to tell you a little bit more about Kelly.
Thank you. So we started with Kelly Services on November 6th. It hasn't been quite a full month yet. Most of our subs transitioned over to Kelly Services. We're doing daily teacher subs and building teacher subs. So just the permanent subs and the per diem teacher subs. No other types of subs like secretaries or CIAs at this time. It seems to be working out okay. Most of them did transition over. Some of them didn't want to transition over, and then they just didn't sign up with Kelly Services. Right now, I think they've brought on, I don't have the exact number, but a handful of new subs. So at our next administrators meeting, we will be asking the administrators how they feel it's working at this point.
So then, can we get, going into this year's budget, can we get a breakdown of how that service is working, where the funds are being expended? Are we using regular subs or just Kelly subs? How the whole system works, just so we can all.
Yeah, all teacher subs are coming from Kelly Services at this point.
So our old subs who didn't transition to Kelly, we no longer use their services?
Correct.
Okay, but yeah, so maybe we get a breakdown, just a
Yeah.
cost analysis of,
I can give you the numbers of how many transferred over to Kelly and how many just decided not to.
and just what our fees and expenses are related to that program.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would also extend on that to say that, while we did migrate our existing subs into Kelly, being a partner with Kelly allows us to cast a wider net to pull from a market, and I think that's important to note. There are ways to track the statistics for the fill rate, and we should be able to do a comparison, but all the information you just noted, we should be able to generate for you.
Okay.
And I can say that we have had a higher percentage of fill rates since we've started with them.
Okay, great, thanks. And then last month we had talked about some of the surpluses, I think from last year, generated by the salary line items, and you were going to provide us with a breakdown of those the cost analysis of those surpluses, and didn't know if you had a chance to put that together, or...
Frankly, I don't remember that coming out of a request from the board meeting. However, I know there was an email that you recently sent when I got back from vacation. It welcomed me, and we are working on putting that together for you. But I will say a lot of the information you requested has filtered through the board through the past year, so it's really not an issue. We will put that together again, share it with you, and provide that information.
Okay. So yeah, during, I think the last meeting, you had talked about a large piece of the surplus being based in salaries, and I had requested that we get a breakdown just of where that entire surplus, I know we're turning back about a $2 million surplus, but we spent out about $1.5 million, $1.8 million, somewhere there in addition. So just where all those expenses came from, and you had suggested the vast majority of it was through salaries, so I was just hoping to see kind of a clear breakdown as to where it all came from.
Absolutely.
Super. Any other questions for Ms. Mangini? Oh, Ms. Vidal.
Just to bring it back to the ESSER funds and the fiscal cliff for a second, you mentioned that in setting up the new budget year, or budget proposal, you were asking everybody for flat or less than what they had this year. Doesn't that include ESSER funds at this point? What they had this year?
No, absolutely not. ESSER funds are used for
Completely separate under
completely
grant.
separate and very specific purposes related to pandemic, loss of learning, and different categories. So very separate.
But as far as positions go and things like that, those are all under those ESSER funds.
Some positions are, and that's something that we don't actually ask the schools or departments to do salaries. We actually handle that.
Right, but you asked them for
Finance
positions,
department.
right?
I don't think I understand
So
the question.
the ESSER grant is independent of the operating budget.
Correct.
Right, so two different things. Positions are only requested if it's matched with a new initiative. So from an operating budget standpoint, the suggestion is that folks submit things that are flat. But if there is a need specific, they've also been encouraged to submit that through a new initiative request.
Say, and I don't have the breakdown of the positions, I'd like to request a breakdown of the positions under each of the grants, but say a classroom instructional aide is under the ESSER grants, one of the ESSER grants. Would that position be expected to be as part of flat to this year? It would not.
No, that's independent of the operating budget.
Okay.
What will happen, so everything that is captured in the ESSER grant is what we're discussing as part of the fiscal cliff.
Right.
Right. But the operating budget, that's the board's budget. So that's to the extent that the board can make a commitment to keep everything that's in the operating budget, that's the aim. However, there are essential positions that are in ESSER grant that once those things dissolve, this board will have to have conversations about how we absorb that. And again, it's not a Stratford conversation. It's not a next door. It's a state conversation. This is a national conversation.
No, I understand that. I just wanted to be clear that when asking for the schools or the principals or whoever's department's budgets, that flat or less than did not include those ESSER positions.
Purely operating budget. Good question.
Great. Any other questions for Ms. Mangini? Super. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will move on to Dr. Daniels and her teaching and learning report.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and I hope you had a great holiday break. So over the last few months, district and school leaders have been working on improving Tier 1 instruction and looking at acceleration methods. Today I'm going to talk about some of the talent in our district amongst our teachers and administrators who over this last month has spent a significant amount of time to calibrate our practices around Tier 1. So I'll start with November 1st. We engaged in instructional rounds visiting over 40 plus classrooms across our elementary, high school, and middle school. We visited 4 of the 13 schools. And we went in to pretty much calibrate our practices around Tier 1, as I mentioned, specifically in the area of how we're using formative assessments to inform instruction. And all of our leaders will revisit the findings again to talk about how do we improve our practice of using formative assessments in the classroom, how do we provide feedback to students, and how do we set learning targets that are grade level, and how do we support teachers with the application of the formative assessments throughout their data teams and also in their classroom and as part of their planning. The other piece, on November 7th, we held our PD on Election Day, and our sessions were provided by 43 different presenters. Mix of administration, teachers, community members, even Stratford PD, who came to our campus, different schools, and provided current trends and instructional practices related to pedagogy, assessment, and curriculum. So we were excited to have those sessions, and I know our teachers left with excitement as well to go back into their classrooms and begin doing the work the following day. From presentations like our building thinking classrooms and other areas that was discussed earlier by our student. Also, during the week of November 13th, our continuous focus on Tier 1 instruction, we had a collective of Stratford teachers and administrators collaborating on curriculum resources and assessments to finalize our first reiteration of our curriculum. And so we all have identified that a strong, viable curriculum matched with calibrated practice is the key to strengthening our Tier 1 practices. So we've gotten together in teams, got professional learning, training, and worked together on establishing K-12 learning targets, in addition to what we call P-skills and assessments to ensure that we are able to clarify for our students, for our families, expectations and success criteria for learning. And in closing, we have 2 important parent communications that will be coming out this week or later next week. We're finalizing one as we speak. The first communication is going to be about confidentiality in student records, so that letter will be coming out. We would like our parents to read it, become familiar with it. And in addition, we will also have our kindergarten registration letter that goes out to explain how do we sign up for kindergarten for the 24-25 school year, because we do have new legislation in place. But if you have any questions, feel free to call our office. And just wanted to thank everyone for their continued support and dedication to our students' education. And thank you for our outgoing board members and the work that you guys have done these past few years.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for Dr. Daniels? Ms. Vidal?
While you speak of kindergarten, can we get an update on what is the plan for Stratford in rolling out kindergarten for next year? I know it's a loaded question, and I know there's a lot going on. People are starting to inquire about it. And
Yes, so Ms. Borges and I are both working collectively with several members of our office to identify how we're going to move forward with that. And our letter is going to outline that. Heather, I don't know, Ms. Borges, if you wanted to add to that piece, but essentially we're writing out an outline that will allow our families to communicate to schools that they would like their child to enter kindergarten. Because the September 1st date, you're supposed to be 5 by that time, but if not, parents can write a letter, submit it, and request that they enter kindergarten, and we have a screener that we use to make that determination. Heather, if you want to go into greater detail with that, or that's pretty much how it's going to look, and the letter will give details.
As you guys know, the state provided new legislation and guidance that changed the kindergarten entry age, but along with that, they put a set in place of things that we need to do as a district to make sure that we are hearing our families in their requests for early admittance into kindergarten. And that's really what it would be, because the new age is September 1st. With that, we put together protocols. Right now, we are having our diversity, equity, and inclusion group come and look through to make sure that everything we are doing is going to meet the needs of the students. And then we want to make clear directions for everybody, because we understand that as of January, parents will need to request placement in their preschools if they are staying for an additional year, and that this is a burden that they're going to need to be able to do. So we know we want clear directions. Our committee also wants to make sure that we don't have to retract anything that we're saying. So we are trying to make sure that our families will have clear letters that tell them how to request to enter kindergarten early, and that they understand the process of the evaluation that will happen and the conversation that will happen with our building leaders. Does that make sense? Okay.
Super. Yes, Mr. Henrik?
So I did, at the latest CAPE training, I did have an opportunity to go, and one of the classes I wanted to go to was to meet the State Board of Ed. And I did go and speak to them quite a bit about this new enrollment program. And it's, I can't blame CAPE, I can't blame the State Board of Ed. It was at the end of the night deal adding in this early registration made by our legislators. So as much as I'd like to blame somebody, the legislators always are to blame. So it was them, it wasn't something they were supporting, it's something they fought against. And again, hopefully, maybe moving forward, we can have our legislators come and give us updates on a monthly basis as to what's going on, so we know what to advocate. But they did say it was something they fought against, and that the legislators at the last minute made a deal to add that in and essentially put our staff, families, and students in a really bad position. So I'm sure after next year it'll adjust, but this first year is going to be really difficult, and I've had conversations with a number of our staff and families, and they're all confused. It's I'm not going to say it's as bad as CT said, but it's probably right up there. So anyway, hopefully it works out.
But just to add to the conversation, we were one of the only states with letting children in that early into kindergarten, correct?
And not even all the town.
Yes, that's right. So I understand it is most definitely a hardship, and I think you're right that this next year is going to be an adjustment, but I think hopefully, you know, with our amazing administrators and teachers leading the charge, we'll get there. And I'm glad that my kids are bigger than preschool age. Any other questions for Ms. Daniel? Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
I had mentioned and given you some information a little while back about the Home Builders Association and a program that I didn't know if you had a chance to start that process or at least the conversation, and if it was something that you saw would be of value to our town and students.
So we're still working on it. We had our second post-secondary committee today to talk through some of the things that we are working on to ensure the trades are part of the process and ensuring that we also have college career. Mr. Kennedy was there with us today, so we talked a little bit about it. So our upcoming meeting that we have scheduled, we're going to begin to map out what it looks like and begin to have more deeper conversations about where we can apply some of the programs that we have coming in, including the Home Builders Association.
Have you been able to reach out to Mr. Parrish yet, just to get some information?
No, not directly, no, I have
Okay.
not reached out.
Just, I mean, it might be helpful to know what they're offering and how helpful it will be
Yes.
as you make your plans, so.
Okay.
And I know they're excited about rolling it out, and there are a couple of towns within the state that have already rolled it out, and they have said that it seems to be very successful, so, but just at least knowing what it is, so you can incorporate that into your planning. But he's eagerly awaiting your call, so I'll let him know we spoke.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thanks.
Very exciting. Anything else for Dr. Daniels? Okay, great. Thank you very much, Dr. Daniels. We will move on to our consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from October 23rd, 2023, this month's personnel, hold on, Ms. Casey, this month's personnel document, as well as Stratford High School's overnight field trip for their music department to go to Washington, D.C. Now, so moved by Ms.
You're doing them
Cupey.
all at once? So,
If you guys don't mind doing them all at once, we could discuss them separately. But yes, so second by Ms. Wiltsey, discussion. Yes, ma'am.
I have some questions on the personnel document.
Me too, but go ahead, you go first.
There were a couple of new positions under grants for after-school detention supervisors that were added at the middle schools. Are those current teachers? How long is detention? We need 3 different people at one of the middle schools.
Yeah, I wasn't the lead on that, so I'm going to invite one of my colleagues. But I do believe Ms. Borges. Okay.
Part of the code of conduct is for us to have after-school detention, so they provide detention 2 days a week. Detention is, I believe, an hour, it might be an hour and a half, but I'll get you the exact time. And so different staff members can apply to do that, but you'd still only have 1 staff member there, each detention, right? But you might not. So it is our current staff members that do it.
Current staff.
Yep, they get paid to stay after school to serve those detentions. Detentions run 2 days a week.
Okay. Second question.
Go for it.
I also see that under grant, new climate specialists were hired. Are those under the grant that we'd already seen? Are they new added to that grant?
Can you direct me to the page?
Page 4 of the personnel report. Non-union.
Yes, this is the honey spot position, which I believe we have, Ms. Mangini, correct me if I'm wrong, we funded this through Alliance, correct? Or is this through ESSER?
There's more than just Honey Spot. There's Flood, Worcester.
They are currently being funded through ESSER.
ESSER, yep.
Yes, and he,
So there,
yes.
there were 16 or 17, I can't remember the exact number, in ESSER already. Are these on top of that, or?
These are in addition. If you recall last spring, one of the things that we discussed here as a community and also at the board was the activity that happened that existed at the middle school level. And last year they only had two climate specialists. So analyzing their disciplinary data last year, I made the decision to bolster that allotment. So starting this year, we've added those positions to both middle schools, male and female.
Okay.
All right. Okay, sorry, Mr. Henrik. I'm just wondering about some of the after-school enrichment programs. There's lots of them in there. They sound amazing. But I have a few questions. There's different amounts on the stipend, so does that mean that those clubs meet for different lengths of time? They range from $750 to $3,000.
What grant are they coming from, and are we giving students at every school equitable access to these clubs? Is like, one school only have one club and then another school has 20 clubs?
I can start off by explaining that they are all through the ESSER grant.
Okay.
It was how the ESSER grant was originally written, and if you'll recall that first year, our teachers were pretty tired and they weren't really enthusiastic about these after-school activities, but the last couple of years it has really grown. The difference in the amounts are based on, I think there were 3 options. They could either do a full year, half year, but it was all equitable. And some teachers actually chose to split the stipend and do a program together. So and to the best of my knowledge, I'll defer to Dr. Osunde, but the opportunities are equitable. Students are allowed to participate in whatever is available. I'm sure there is somewhat of a limit to the number of students, but I don't really think we've run into that problem where there's been more students interested than opportunities.
Great. They seem fun and exciting. So yes, Mr. Hunter, I'm sorry.
So, are you done? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, and I guess maybe this goes back to Ms. Daniels' report as well. And I know we've hired a supervisor of fine arts. At the last meeting, we talked about quite a bit about the music program and some concerns of the parents and their inability to get proper education in the music industry. Is hiring this, and maybe Mr. Crook can answer the question, but is hiring this new administrator going to help resolve those? Have we found a solution to that problem already? Where are we with that?
The administrator, I think the concern more or less was the ratio of the class sizes and the teachers being able to work with a grouping of students. It wasn't necessarily whether or not there was an administrator in place. So those were 2 separate things. But right now, we did put together a plan to ensure that every student that's a beginning music student in the 4th grade has smaller groups, smaller ratios, teacher-student ratios, and that we have a clear decision-making path or decision-making chart, if you will, for how we create our groupings, and we are all set in that area.
I know there were some...
We do have another teacher that's coming on board, though. And that teacher is to support the general music to ensure that we can reach those ratios that we just talked about. So there's one teacher that is going to be at Lordship, and the expectation is they would take on the general music, and so that would free up that teacher that's there now to do more instrumental lessons across the district, making the ratios a little more balanced.
Because I know originally in last year's budget, those cuts were explained as rescheduling, and some of the parents and some of the teachers had concerns of the inability to give the students proper instruction. And so I didn't know if this was part of the plan to resolve that, or is it already resolved? Is everybody involved satisfied with the outcome?
So we all worked together on responding to this. So we brought in our lead music teacher, Jeff Babby, and a couple of the other teachers to talk about what do we want the music program to look like and what are equitable ratios to ensure that all of our children get access to our music, our instrumental lessons. And so, because the core music classes they were already receiving. So at this point in time, by getting the additional teacher, the 1.0 teacher, to teach general music, it frees up one of our teachers who serves as an instrumental teacher in the past to really go out and do more instrumental lessons with students. So that's our solution for this year, and also naming the decision-making chart. And I don't know if Dr. Sunday, is there anything additional that I might have?
Yeah, we have been working on this music situation really dating back to the summer. I've personally had a chance to visit classrooms, sit down with our teachers, speak with other influential and important people in the conversation. When we hired Mr. Crooks, one of the things that was important to us is having a conversation to bring in new ideas about how to expand access. We have one of the best music programs in the state, obviously, and we want to look to expand those things. The process that we did put in place was not smooth. We do have a process now based on the collaboration between Dr. Daniels and some lead teachers, specifically Babby and Ushak. And I also added the 1.0 position that you heard in this Dr. Daniels reference. Once we're able to fill that position, we believe things will be ready to go. It's possible, I know Dr. Daniels made a reference regarding communication. She made a reference about communication around Fur Butt and Coke Butt. Did you mention as well the music communication that's slated to go out?
I didn't, but it will be going out as well.
So there's a drafted communication that will go out to our families, and I'm also slated to connect with some families at Lordship as well to have this conversation, explain to them the process. But we will have to, I will convene a team to revisit this in the spring as part of the conversation, and we'll be sure to report out to the board as well.
And then,
I just wanted to follow up on that. When are instrumental lessons supposed to start?
I believe they have already started.
They've already started, but the new schedule, we're hoping to start next week.
Will
So
be a
we're-
shift on the
Right,
4th.
so we're phasing it in. So this week, our teachers are meeting with the students to kind of say, you know, hi, I'm Joe, I'm gonna be your new teacher, build a relationship. Next week is when we expect all of our students to have the smaller class sizes and the similar instruments together.
and then just one last question. Can you explain this more specifically the administrators, how that hiring process works from start to finish?
Well, there's a vacancy, and we post for the position. We utilize the same traditional screening process and interview process with a committee of folks that represent a cross-section. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think, I'm not certain that in this instance kids were involved, but to the extent that we can, we typically have to bring kids into the conversation. Oftentimes we bring parent voice as well. Ultimately, for these administrative positions, I meet with them as well, one-to-one, oftentimes with Ms. Courtney Brown. I have a set of questions that I ask them, and the individuals that get advanced to my level of the interview process have been fully vetted out by the committee. Reference checks have been conducted before they sit with me, and after I have a conversation with them, I assess their passion, their skill set, and determine whether or not they're the right fit for Stratford Public Schools. I've gone through that process, and today I introduced 4 outstanding leaders who we believe can certainly advance the interests of the Stratford Public Schools and benefit our kids, and we fully expect them to deliver on what we believe they can.
Thank you.
Super. Any other discussion around our consent agenda, the meeting minutes, the field trip? The field trip was forwarded to the board with a favorable recommendation from the curriculum committee, just to note. All right. Seeing no further discussion, we'll have a roll call vote. Ms. Cupey?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Wiltsey?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes 7-0. We'll move on to items for action and discussion. There are no proposed budget transfers this evening, so we'll move on to number 2. I will entertain a motion to approve the SLAM survey criteria, which has been forwarded to the board with a favorable recommendation from the school planning committee. So moved by Ms. Cupey.
Second.
Second by Ms. Carol Fabian. Can we have just a little discussion on this for the public, where we've been, where we're going?
Sure. Oh, do you want to go?
I was going to invite the committee chairs to chime in, and also our lead, family engagement. Mr. Von Temple has done a magnificent job of spearheading the community part of it. So I will defer to either Ms. Cupey or
So the
Mr.
committee
Henry.
met, sure, can you hear me? The committee met and we were presented with the survey data that went out to the community and all the stakeholders. I believe almost 1,400 responses were received, which is great. And we received a presentation showing how the respondents, prioritized the different initiatives, and the top 3 priorities came out to be they wanted to continue the neighborhood school concept, ensure equal class sizes across the elementary schools, and third, disrupt the least number of students. So those are the top ones, and then 4th and 5th came in as converting elementary to K-5, you know, and moving 6 to the middle, so that wasn't very popular. And last on the list was minimizing student travel time by bus. And the committee did not have any issues with the top 3. They seemed to align, you know, with our goal and meeting the needs of what we as a board have seen as the challenge, right, in the elementary school. So that's kind of what we are putting forward as our recommendation, is to go ahead and stick with the top 3.
And those 3 would be in addition to also ensuring racial balancing.
Exactly, which is a state mandate anyway, yes.
Right. And so, Mr. Henrik, anything to add on that? No. Okay. Can you detail, Dr. Sunday or Ms. Temple, then how, I don't know if this is like your thing, but how we'll proceed if we hand off these priorities to SLAM?
Sure. I will invite Ms. Temple to speak a little bit about our next steps. She has done an amazing job, and she is going to be a part of this process.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Excuse my voice. So the next steps are we will meet with SLAM. As Ms. Cupie already went through our survey results, we did have quite a large amount of responses in regards to, you know, what people really want to see, and it was a request by the committee for SLAM to actually comb through all of those responses. Again, we had about 1,400 people respond to the survey, so we had another about 600 to 700 people who actually wrote in some responses too, that were quite lengthy and great suggestions, and we did see that, you know, it's kind of divided amongst us all, so we just want to move that to SLAM so they could do it in a way that is that speaks to everyone in town, right? That speaks to the needs of the district. So that's the next steps, right, Dr. Sunday? All right, thanks.
And we are slated to, you know, a few weeks back, SLAM did request a meeting with myself, Ms. Mangini, and Mr. Ruggiero. I believe there was a recent email as recently as today. However, we wanted the board to make a decision on these criteria first before we schedule that meeting.
Great, exciting. And then once they get these criteria, then they can do their demographic study or what have you, right? And then they'll bring back to the board scenarios, which I would imagine will elicit much conversation going forward. So, yes, sir.
I know you mentioned that we had asked, I think at the board, at the meeting, the committee meeting, that SLAM kind of dig through those answers. There were about 14. Were they able to delineate some of the direction of some of the, when I read it, and again, we had 20 minutes to look through it, but it seemed like for every response.
I don't think it was sent yet. It wasn't sent to them yet. That's what we're. Because we're approving.
Oh, so they haven't even seen any of the results?
Not yet.
Okay.
Easy approve it first.
Okay. So yeah, it was just, and it was just my kind of perception that for every positive response to one issue, there was a negative response of equal enthusiasm, so.
Yeah, it was a little bit of everything.
Yeah. But it was very varied.
Yes.
Wonderful. Any further discussion regarding this, these survey criteria? Super. Seeing none, let's have a roll call vote. Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Ms. Vidal?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Wiltsey?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Cupie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes 7-0. Excited to see what SLAM comes back with. We will move on to number 3. I will entertain a motion to approve the 2024 meeting dates for the board, finance committee, school plan planning committee, and curriculum committee.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Carol
Second.
Fabian, second by Ms. Cupie. You can see all of these dates in your packet. I won't be at a single one of them, but they are, it's true. And I'll read through the board dates just so everybody has those. The board dates proposed are January 22nd, 2024, February 26th, 2024, March 25th, 2024, April 22nd, 2024, May 28th, 2024, which is a Tuesday following Memorial Day, June 24th, 2024, in July, the board has a break. August 26th, 2024, September 23rd, 2024, October 28th, 2024, November 25th, 2024, and December 16th, 2024, due to the Christmas holiday. Any discussion on these dates?
So are we just voting on the board, the main board?
We're voting on all of, they're all in here and proposed. I think they follow a certain
Town charter.
typical schedule. So
They're not, there's nothing in our bylaws, state statute, or policy that dictates when any of these committee meetings are held. And I would suggest, since it's a new board and new chairman who are going to be running the board, that we allow them to pick their schedule. I understand that the Stratford Board of Ed, it says, in accordance with board rules and regulations, that's the Stratford Board of Ed meeting that meets the fourth Monday of every month. That's already in our rules of order, but the other meetings are not. And I think it would be disrespectful at the least to mandate a new coming board obey a schedule that was set by an outcoming board. So I would like to vote separately on the board and the committee meetings allowed to be chosen.
could I entertain a motion to amend the motion to just approve the meeting dates for the board? Would that be easier?
Yeah.
Help me out. All right. So
Did somebody already make a motion in second?
we did make a motion and seconded, so I'll entertain a motion to amend the motion to only,
Or somebody can take back their motion and we can make a new motion.
there we go.
Can someone take it back or relate it, because I have a comment. Finance committee needs to be separate from this conversation because it meets before the board meeting.
There's nothing in state statute, legislature, or bylaws, or a policy that mandates that the finance meeting meet for, and in years past, I don't know how long back, but I know I've spoken to a number of old board members who the finance meeting didn't meet before the Board of Ed meeting, but I think it would be at least respectful to allow the new chairman to select, and the new board to select that schedule as it meets their needs, because there might be reasoning why they don't want to be the full board meeting.
May I ask a question of Ms. Lykudas, who knows everything about everything? Not that this means that it must be this way, but has the finance committee, in your historical knowledge, that's the entire board.
Can we get a microphone?
Yeah, she said the meetings have to go to the town clerk, so that is a consideration.
But the committee meetings don't need to go to the town clerk before the December meeting.
Board meeting does.
The town charter.
I know the committee meetings are not in the town charter. The board has always met the fourth Monday of every month and is in the rules and regulations, as Mike stated. The committee meetings, since I've been here, have been pretty much set and have always been sent over to the town clerk at the same time. And we were under the impression that they would be deemed as special meetings, even the committees, if we don't get them to her at this time.
I can look in our bylaws, but I would disagree with that, and I think there's a different time frame for committee meetings as opposed to the full board. But
I can certainly follow up with her tomorrow.
But again, it's a meeting schedule set by committees, an entire new committee, and the new committee shouldn't be encumbered by the thoughts of an outgoing committee.
We certainly
Out of
don't
respect
want
for the incoming committees, I think we should allow those chairmen to select those timeframes. And it'll be a 2-year commitment for those, so.
That is fine. It's no skin off my back if you guys
So
are
am I
willing.
withdrawing my
Yes.
motion? I withdraw my motion.
All right, Ms. Cupie withdraws her motion, and so, with that being
I
said,
would make a motion to approve the Stratford Board of Ed meetings on the fourth Monday of the month in accordance with our board rules and regulations.
super. Motion made by Mr. Henrik, second by Ms. Fidel. Any further discussion? Amazing. We'll have a roll call vote. Ms. Cupie?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mrs. Wiltsey?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Fidel?
Yes.
Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Motion passes 7-0. Can't wait to see when those meetings are going to be. Soon. We will move on to item number 4.
So, Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I would just make a motion to table the meeting schedules for the other 3 committees.
Thank you, sir. I depend on you. I will entertain a motion to table
setting the meeting dates for finance, school plan planning, and curriculum.
Would make a motion to table.
Second.
Second by Ms. Bedell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Abstain? All right, it's on the table. We will move on to number 4, which is the revision to bylaw 9132B regarding the Finance Committee. I will entertain a motion to approve said revision.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Henrik, second by Ms. Wiltie. Ms. Mangini, can you just detail this a smidge for us?
Yes, the bylaw change is simply a reflection of adhering and aligning with the board's policy.
Great, thank you. Any discussion on this? It is just reading that the amount is switched from $7,500 to $10,000 to align with policy number 3160.
Madam Chair, if you could
Yes,
just refresh my memory, the bylaws state we have to have 2 readings, and I think this would be the second reading. Did we do this?
No, bylaws. We did the policy.
Yeah, honestly, Mr. Henrik,
The policy
So
had to read, but we
Yeah.
already went through
Yeah.
and did the policy.
this is just a revision.
This is just
an edit to the
update
policy.
the bylaws to reflect that change.
So in order to revise the bylaws, it needs to be done at two readings, typically at least 30 days apart. So this would be considered the first reading, and we can pass it to the new.
That sounds like a great idea.
Just to do it by.
Yep, you
by
bet.
bylaws, but-
Always, always. Wonderful, thank you. So approve this as a first reading. Any further discussion? Super. I will have a roll call vote. Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Wiltie?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Cupie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, passes 7-0. Moving right along. I will entertain a motion to approve the graduation date for the class of 2024.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Wiltie.
Second.
Second by Ms. Carol Fabian. Dr. Sunday, can you go into this a little bit for us, please?
Sure. In October, we had a discussion here, and I made a proposal to set the graduation date for the class of 2024 on June 10th. There is state statute, specifically Public Act 19-195, that allows boards of education to set the graduation date to the extent that schools have satisfied 180 days of school. So right now, given our review of this, the 180th day would be June 6th. We are making a proposal to the Board of Education to set the graduation date on June 10th, which is Monday of 2024. We're also recognizing that there are a few other regional communities that have set their dates as well. I believe Westport is one of them. They set their date, I believe, in September or in October with the same date. Again, as we've talked about in the past, as a general practice, we try to avoid graduations on Fridays. So we're making a proposal for Monday, June 10th, 2024 for the graduation dates of both Bunnell High School and Stratford High School.
Ms. Bedell?
180 days, you said would be June 6th, right? So that would allot for 2 snow days in there if we had them?
So hopefully we don't get any snow. I was watching the weather through Thanksgiving, and the Midwest has already been getting some precipitation. But should we experience some inclement weather, we would make the adjustment, and we would communicate that not just to the board, but also the community as well. Good question.
Any further discussion? All right, super. Let's have a roll call vote on this. Ms. Cupie?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mrs. Wiltie?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes 7-0. I can't wait to celebrate those seniors on June 10th, hopefully. Let's do it. All right, moving on to item number 6, I will entertain a motion to approve the educational specifications for Chapel Street Elementary School boiler replacements.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Bedell. Second. Second by Ms. Cupie. Can you tell us more about this? Ms. Mangini?
Sure.
Or Mr. Ruggiero?
Why don't I start and you can add, Rich, because I'm sure I'll miss something. But this is the second round of the state's HVAC grant that we have worked with the town to apply for the boiler replacement at Chapel and Wilcoxon. The town has in fact approved resolutions to move forward, indicating that they will finance the town match that's required, and the next step now is for the board to approve these educational specifications as part of the process, and we are on a really tight deadline as this is due by the end of December, but we're moving along. Anything I missed?
Oh, no.
Talk loud.
Talk louder.
There you go.
So everything that Pam had just said, and Ms. Mangini said, that's about all we have in the town. We know we're all set to move forward with it. Got the grant, they're gonna fund it, and Brian Schneider's been running with that for the town as he usually does.
So the town's on board with it?
They are, absolutely. It's
Okay.
all through the town.
Great. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Hendrick?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Wiltsey? Yes. Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Cupey?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes 7-0. Move on to number 7. I'll entertain a motion to approve the educational specifications for Wilcoxon Elementary School boiler replacements.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Hendrick.
Second.
Second by Ms. Bedell. Discussion, I assume this is the same story, just with Wilcoxon instead of Chapel Street. Wonderful.
And the town's on board, so.
Great. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Ms. Cupey?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mrs. Wiltsey?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Hendrick?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes 7-0. We are up to tabled items. I will entertain a motion to remove anything from the table.
Renaming committee, do we wanna?
It's up to you.
I'll make a motion to move it from the table.
Mrs. Wiltsey?
I do have a question, so yes.
All right, Mrs. Wiltsey motions to take the renaming committee report off the table.
Second.
Second by Ms. Bedell, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, it is off the table and open for discussion. Mrs. Wiltsey?
Withdraw. No question. I have a question on residency.
Oh, geez.
Not on this.
All right. Well, it's off the table. Do we have any discussion regarding the renaming committee report?
All right, it's off the table, so the person's been named, is an African-American woman who has worked in our district for 30-plus years. Most of our schools are named after old white men. I think this is a perfect example for an opportunity for us as an outgoing board to show our support for the African-American community, to put a name up on there who's somebody who has met all the criteria, who has served this community, for many, many years, and is a shining example of what we want our staff to be, somebody supportive, caring, and full of educational vigor. So I think we should support it. I think we should pass it. Again, it's been 2 years. He's been looking for some kind of an answer, and I think it's time we show it its due respect and put a name on one of our buildings that's not an old white man.
Okay, Mr. Hendrick, will you pass that down to Mike?
The English wing?
Yes, sir.
Of Stratford High School, the Ruby Kinlow McNeil wing. Is that the, yeah?
I believe so.
That would be my motion.
Yeah. Okay, motion made by Mr. Hendrick. Second by Mr. Kennedy. Do we have any discussion on this? It does, I'm going to remind the board that this does have to be unanimously approved in order to pass, according to our board policy. Any discussion?
Can you just review, what were some of the questions brought up by the committee?
Hesitations.
That, yes. I mean, having been there, and I would have to pull up the minutes from Ms. Lykuda's, which are buried away, but I know that, for example, some of the hesitations that were discussed were the quality of the artifacts that were presented. Per policy, we required 10 letters of recommendation, and there was a change.org that had many signatures, but full letters, I think there were only 3 or 4. So there were many, many signatures on the change.org petition, not as many full letters, extolling the service and sort of details of who this person was. And so I think that was sort of the bulk of the hesitation. That, and then, I know that some folks expressed concern that this might, invite a deluge of folks, then wanting wings and buildings and what have you, named after, their special teachers. So I think that was what was discussed. And I know that the board did receive the artifacts as well as the meeting minutes from those meetings.
I just might suggest after seeing the process and the longevity of this whole endeavor, it might even discourage some folks, but I do commend Mr. Harden for his effort and his ambition and his desire. But if we do make the motion, I just see a note here, it would be the Ruby, and I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced, Ruby McNeil Wing for Study of English and Language Arts.
Yes, sir.
Would be the proper.
Would be the official name. Great, thank you for clarifying. And the motion is on the table. Any further discussion? Okay. We will have a roll call vote. Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Wiltsey?
No.
Ms. Carol Fabian?
No.
Ms. Cupie?
No.
Chair votes yes. Motion does fail because it was not unanimously passed.
Guess we'll keep all the old white men on the.
I don't think it, I think that's inappropriate. Well, would anybody like to take anything else off the table?
I'd like to make a motion, please, to take residency off the
All
table.
right, Mrs. Wiltsey has made a motion, second by Ms. Bedell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, it's off the table. Go ahead, Mrs. Wiltsey.
I'm curious as to the reports that are being offered for residency. I know that we have to ask for them quite often, but my biggest concern is I'd like to have our safety director present at board meetings, so I'm just going to put that on the record so that we can call on any questions that we might have with regard to our school safety, our lockdown drills, and residency inquiries.
Great, thank you. Any further discussion around residency?
I will make a motion to put it back on the table.
Great.
Thank you.
Second by Ms. Bedell. All in favor?
Aye.
Residency is back on the table. Thank you all. Moving on to committee assignment reports. Ms. Carol Fabian, your curriculum committee met on November 14th. Report.
We did. We had a presentation from Mr. Ryan, which explained the overnight field trip to Washington, D.C. by the Stratford High School Music Department. He discussed how they would be performing and being critiqued and being able to perform and hear performances by other bands throughout the country. And then they would have some time to explore some of the Smithsonian museums in the DC area. We also had a wonderful presentation on building thinking classrooms in mathematics. It was very interactive, and all committee members had to participate. So thank you again to Ms. Scandura, Mr. Peters, Mr. Donahue, and Ms. Rosenberg. And then Dr. Daniels gave us an update on MTSS data and where we are with each school with that.
Awesome, great. Anything else? Mr. Kennedy?
Very interactive.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Ms. Cupie? Anything to add? It was fun. It was a fun meeting. Finance committee met prior to this meeting. Mrs. Wiltsey?
Yes, we met right before the board meeting, keeping an eye on special education and food services debts. I'm sorry I have no report as to when the next meeting will be.
Thank you, ma'am. Anything else regarding finance? All right, school planning meeting committee met on November 2nd. Ms. Cupie and Mr. Henrik led. We did hear about the work that you guys led during that session. Anything else to add? Great.
I guess one question I asked
Yes, sir.
Dr. Sunday, typically what would be our next scheduled meeting would be the December meeting. Is there a super necessity that we meet? Well, let me ask, is there a necessity that we meet in December?
That would be determined by the chairs, and based on what they would like to put on the agenda.
Based on the SLAM,
There isn't. After the board's decision today, myself and Ms. Mangini will connect with the officials at SLAM, move forward the priorities to them. They will brief us. If there's anything that's present, I will be in contact with you, and we'll determine whether or not we should meet. But at this point in time, I don't believe there's anything present that would necessitate a meeting.
Okay,
I think the only thing was, Mr. Ruggiero was gonna get us information on the capital improvement plan. But I don't know if that's something you wanna do via email or whatever, or if it's even ready, so it's not gonna be ready, okay.
It has to.
Tomorrow to continue finalizing it.
Correct.
We had slated it for January's plan.
Okay.
and I think I could be wrong, but I think your terms end December
11th, my friend.
Yeah, so if the need that something, if it did, we could, this board, this committee could be mandated.
Correct.
And also, I would just like to reiterate to the community that the planning meetings are taped and posted, because I know that transparency throughout this redistricting process is paramount, and so please go on the district, or actually, is it on YouTube? Is it on the district? I know it's on our YouTube
It's
channel.
on the district YouTube page.
Love the YouTube channel. So you can go on there and watch the proceedings so that y'all can be as up to date as we are. Liaison did not meet this month. Policy review also was not able to meet this month. Athletic review, Mr. Kennedy, you met.
So we met a couple weeks ago, and we had a passionate dialogue, I think, a lot of good ideas and things thrown out. One of the big things that I think the committee this year is going to really work on is how we can work with our feeder programs and better preparation for them, whether it's mentoring and having them really fully understand what it means to be a high school athlete. And then also with the coaches as well, and being able to, work with the coaches so they can prepare the kids better. So great dialogue for that, and more to come.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Kennedy. Anything else to add? Anybody? Anything? Wonderful. Okay. Cabe, Ms. QP, anything to fill us in?
Well, we've covered a lot. We won an award, yay.
You did it.
All members on the board were in attendance at this year's annual Cape convention. Lots of great workshops, that we all spread out and attended and gathered some really good information. On December 6th, there's going to be new board member orientation workshops, new board member plus existing members, tracks. So definitely register for those, but that's really it.
It was a wonderful conference, and the entire board was there, which was exciting.
Yeah.
And our superintendent as well.
Yes.
Lest we forget you. It was wonderful. Thank you. CES, I was not able to attend this month's meeting, and I believe that they're meeting later this week. But I continue to ask, in my absence, please have a presentation from CES about the services that they provide, so that as a board and as a community, we know what they offer, because they offer an awful lot of amazing services. Town of Stratford building needs, Mr. Henry?
We have not had a discussion with them.
Yeah,
Okay.
The one thing that came up, I believe the town and Ms. Mangini are working on some financial components in terms of the Stratford High, finalizing that whole thing. But there wasn't really any action or any, thing that we needed to do right now. I know there was a recommendation to have us approve the project as complete, but then, I have hesitation on that, so the next board will have to.
There we go, passing it on.
Yeah.
Kicking the can down the line. Wonderful. Any other committees or organizations? Okay, we will move on to general good and welfare. If you guys will bear with the departing members, I saw council members who are departing had time granted to them to deliver some closing remarks, and I thought it would be nice if we had the same opportunity
So Ms. Cupie, Mrs. Wiltsey, and myself, if you will bear with us for a few more minutes, just have a few things to say. Who wants to start?
You start.
You want me to start? I would be honored to start, guys. I never speak off the cuff because you don't want to, I will mess everything up. So I will read. I'd like to start with thank yous because mainly when I think back on the past 4 years, I'm filled with gratitude for the work that's been done and for the people who made that work possible. First and foremost, thank you to my family, my husband Kyle, my daughter Megan, my son James, they're out there too, for enduring endless meetings, phone calls, and events, and for allowing me the time to serve our schools and our community. I expect that my son and daughter will come away from these past few years with an appreciation for volunteerism and certainly a fairly good understanding of government at a local level. I surely hope that they will ace any high school civics class that they take. I love them so much, and I could not have made it through the past 4 years without their patience and unwavering support. Thank you to Dr. Sunday and Dr. Robinson before him for sharing their knowledge and expertise with the district. Their vision and their leadership has guided the district through obstacles and will continue to move our schools forward. And to the board members that I've had the honor of working with, past and present. Bob, Vinny, Allison, and Karen, thank you for showing us the ropes, for your good humor, and for your dedication to the Stratford Public Schools. To the members of this current board, I thank you also for your passion, your patience, and Mike, for your extensive and helpful knowledge of Robert's rules. Lisa, thank you for being an incredible vice chair. I have come to depend on your feedback, your intelligence, and your willingness to talk to me at odd hours. And Denise and Amy, it has been an honor to serve alongside you for the past 4 years. You have inspired me to be stronger, more dedicated, and an all-around better board member and human being. After gratitude, I think of pride. I'm so proud of our dedicated and caring professional community. The work that you do in our schools and with our kids is at the center of everything that we do up here. I'm proud, of course, of our brilliant, creative, superstar students. My favorite memories from this journey inevitably involve being around our kids, whether observing them in classrooms, cheering them on in the bleachers or in the auditorium, or celebrating them at award ceremonies and graduations. And I'm proud of our community of Stratford. I've watched parents, families, and neighbors become more engaged in the work that we do as a board, particularly around policy and budgets. Every speaker at a public forum, every conversation at the grocery store, every letter advocating for students and schools fills me with hope. For an engaged community, along with our wonderful staff and fabulous students, is what our schools need to grow and thrive. And this brings me to hope. I hope that the new board is able to continue the work done over the past few years and that they are led by a desire to create the best academic home for each and every one of Stratford students, including advocating for equitable and updated policies as well as properly resourced schools. I'm so excited to see what Chris, Jill, and Bill, along with Lisa, Mike, Kristen, and Sean, are able to accomplish for our kids. I hope that our community continues to appreciate that a strong school system is vital and necessary, mainly, of course, because it shows that we prioritize our town's most precious resources, its children. And I hope that the growth that we've seen in our schools, in test scores, in morale, and innovation continues. When we all work together, and I'll still be engaged in this work just now from the other side of these tables, I have no doubt that this can and will happen. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me the privilege of serving alongside an exceptional group of individuals. I look forward to the continued success of our schools and the bright future that lies ahead.
She's always a very tough act to
I
follow,
know.
so good luck to the next chair.
I will go if that's
Go ahead.
no order.
4 years has flown by. Who knew that it could be so full of the good, so full of the bad, and at the very same time, so full of the great. I'm extremely blessed to have shared it with you, Janice and Andrea, for the last 4 years. This term has included a sunsetting superintendent, a grand national search for our new leader, a global pandemic that changed the landscape of education, a pandemic that required mass orders of hand sanitizer, masks, plexiglass, thermometers, and gloves. A pandemic that caused fear and division, mask or no mask, virtual learning or in person. A pandemic that caused great loss. Some of that loss extremely personal, and I'd like to offer my heartfelt thanks to those who stuck by me and my family through it all. No one could have predicted it. But I can honestly say, none of us are the same or ever will be again. I've learned so much from this experience, personally and professionally. My experiences have changed my lens, my heart, and my mind. Lessons from people up here, from all of you down there, and across our great district. Some lessons that I'd like to share as I leave this bench and entrust it to our 3 newly elected members, chosen to serve alongside those remaining. These lessons are also for our educators, our students, our community, and Stratford at large. Don't just promote Stratford's Be Kind campaign, actually be kind to one another. Do it at home, at work, and at the grocery store, and please do it online. Be someone of strong character. You are charged with the lives of 7,000 children. Be someone that they can emulate. Don't be pressured to act, to vote, or speak someone else's words. Do the work. Do your research, discuss, collaborate, learn, and lead. Do all of this intentionally, please, and with integrity. Do the hard, be courageous, have empathy, be good to one another. Show respect, earn respect. Collaborate on all things at all times. Always, always, always keep our kids at the center of your work. All of Stratford's kids. They are why we are here. And I will leave you with this. As the departing finance chair and in honor of our phenomenal fiscal leader, Ms. Mangini, she shared with us something that Franklin D. Roosevelt once said. The school is the last expenditure upon which America should be willing to economize. Also, as departing board secretary, please listen to the wise words of a great late leader, Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. Thank you.
I think that's it. I think you guys covered it. Okay. As I say farewell to this incredible journey, I'm immensely grateful for the opportunity to contribute to the growth and success of Stratford Public Schools. The collaborative spirit and the dedicated individuals who form the backbone of our educational community will be dearly missed. I extend heartfelt gratitude to the residents who, on November 5th, 2019, placed their trust in me to represent them and champion the cause of our students on the Board of Education. Your faith has been both an honor and a responsibility. To our outstanding teachers and staff, thank you for your positive contributions to shaping the minds of our students and fostering an environment of growth and learning. I proudly reflect on the progress we've made, from enhancing transparency to elevating conversations around data-driven decision-making. We've strengthened the district leadership, advocated for coherence, and championed uniform behavior expectations district-wide, advocating for the empowerment of our staff to focus on high-value work and streamlining the mundane, supporting programs that foster a sense of belonging among our students, as well as helping to make the community more informed about the budgeting process. These have all been important priorities. I got to work with diverse personalities and forged some strong relationships along the way. I am grateful for the collaborative efforts that have defined our shared mission. To the remaining and new board members, I wish you success. Always remember the purpose behind this role. With every decision, consider its impact on our students. Critical thinking is paramount. Trust your instincts, ask questions, and be mindful of your source's motivations. As I step away, I am confident that our school district will continue to thrive under your dedicated leadership. Thank you all for an incredible journey, and may the future be filled with success and progress. Thank you.
Thank you for letting us talk. And so, seeing no further business, and for the last time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 9:04. So moved by Mrs. Wilkie, second by Ms. Cupie. All in favor? Aye. All right, have a great night. Thank you all.